You guys can hear me in here? Okay, hi, hello. Nice to see you. For those I haven't met, my name is Fusho. It's so nice to be here on a Thursday. I'm not usually able to be here on Thursday evenings, but during the summer, I am. So it's really nice to see new faces and some older faces online here. Nice mix. I'm a teacher here. I'm also a filmmaker and a local journalist. Been based on the Lower East Side for a long time. And most people know, but the newcomers obviously wouldn't know. I'm on the other side of breast cancer treatment. And I was thinking about what to say tonight. And I was thinking to myself, okay, I don't really want to be the one that's always talking about breast cancer, because I have talked about it before, on and off in my talks, if you've heard them. But I'm just in the midst of a whole bunch of a world of breast cancer at the moment. It's what I've been completely immersed in for a couple of different reasons. So you're gonna have to hear more about breast cancer. And then I was thinking, well, why am I already apologizing to myself about this? And why am I already thinking about how I have to say something about, don't worry, I won't always be talking about this. And that's actually something I've just been thinking a lot about. Why do we not want to talk about uncomfortable things? And there's all kinds of reasons. You know, we all have different reasons. I can hear Tribeca Film Festival happening next door. I don't know. I think as women or people in general, we don't want other people to feel uncomfortable. That's one reason. If we notice that other people feel uncomfortable, then we don't want to be responsible for making other people feel uncomfortable. But that can have sort of an artificial effect, I think. And I'm all clear right now, but when I was going through treatment, I met a lot of women who either they knew someone or they themselves went through it and didn't tell anybody for different reasons. Didn't want people to know. You know, everyone has different reasons. It's private, it's personal, it's an experience they wanted to navigate on their own. They had other people around them they didn't want to upset, disturb. I don't know. I think there's all kinds of reasons for that. But anyway, I recently decided to write a short film. It's a comedy about the topic. And it's a dark comedy. And I also, with the intention of actually just helping people talk about it in a way that feels comfortable as a doorway, you know. And so I was just at this, it was really a conference, but it was also a camp, and it was called Camp Breasty. And it was a huge group of women. So it was a very all-inclusive assortment of women invited to spend the weekend at a camp. It was like a sleepaway camp. It was sleepaway camp. It was a boys and girls camp up in Connecticut. So we were in bunks in like kind of like dorm rooms, like cabins. We were bunking. And there were almost 600 women attending. There were 11 of us in one cabin. And it was a variety of women. It was every single I don't know, type, and also every single stage, people going through all different stages that you could possibly imagine. From people who had genetically inherited the predisposition to people who were, it was metastasized or it was stage 4. So it ran the gamut. And I went under the auspices of research for my film, but also, you know, I started to realize that was probably a way of protecting myself a little bit, because obviously, you know, it's all right there, going to come up. Everything is going to be coming up in a situation like that, which it definitely was all right there. And the first day, I was very overwhelmed because everything came back and people were really in it, you know. But it was kind of a celebratory environment that they set up, because it was this thing that we all had in common, even though it was such a wide variety of people. And so I was definitely not sure if I was going to stick around, to be honest, because it was a lot of like, oh my God, just looking right at it in all these different aspects, all different sides of it. But once I was able to get past that really uncomfortable aspect of it for myself and just relax a little bit, it became a really beautiful and supportive experience. And one of the things that this experience made me think about, of course, is a koan. And not just a koan that we've studied before, but particularly some different translations of this koan. And so I wanted to thank our senior student Gesho, who recently led the Path class. We did 4 workshops on poetry, the path of expression. And so she was helping us explore poetry. And along with the poetry, you know, once you start looking at Zen poetry, you start thinking about translation, which is always really important, because if you start to look at different translations, it can change the way you are thinking about something or experiencing it even. Just a few words that are slightly different can make all the difference. So if you're ever working on koans, I can't recommend looking for other translations enough, just to kind of loosen things up and have that experience of, oh yeah, but they're saying it differently, you know, and how would I say it? Which is the most important thing to think about. Like, what does this mean to me? How would I put that in my own words? So Gesho reminded us of this book called Zen Echoes. And it's a collection of koans, but the commentaries are by 3 female Chan masters from going way back. So it's there's different koans collected in here. There's some that we find in the books that we study, and some that we don't. But they weigh in with their commentary, which is very refreshing. And the koan that I've been thinking a lot about is called "A Woman Comes Out of Samadhi," and that one is in. You'll find it in the Mumonkan, and it's also in Zen Echoes. So I'm going to share the gist of "A Woman Comes Out of Samadhi," in the one that's in the Mumonkan. Once in the ancient days of the world-honored one, Manjusri went to the place where Buddhas were assembled and found that all the Buddhas were departing for their original dwelling places. Only a young woman remained, sitting in Samadhi, close to Shakyamuni Buddha's throne. Manjushri asked the Buddha, "Why can that woman be near Buddha's throne, while I cannot?" And the Buddha said, "Just awaken her and raise her up out of Samadhi and ask her yourself." So Manjushri walked around the woman 3 times, snapped his fingers once, took her up to the Brahman heaven and extended all his supernatural powers, but he could not bring her out of Samadhi. And the world-honored one said, even 100 or 1,000 Manjushris would not be able to bring her out of Samadhi. Down below, past 1,200 million lands as innumerable as the sand of the Ganges, is the Bodhisattva Momyo. He will be able to arouse her from Samadhi. And instantly the Bodhisattva Momyo emerged out of the earth and made a bow to the world-honored one, who then gave his command. And the Bodhisattva went before the woman and snapped his fingers, and at this, the woman came out of Samadhi. So the commentary from Muman is that old Shakya plays a country drama on stage, but people of shallow realization cannot appreciate it. So tell me, Manjushri is the teacher of the 7 Buddhas. Why can't he bring the woman out of her Samadhi? While Momyo, who is a bodhisattva in the very beginning stage, can. And there's a verse. One can awaken her, the other cannot. Both have their own freedom. A God mask here and a devil mask there, even in failure, an elegant performance. So, just to clarify something in case it's not clear. Back in the day, when they were writing these stories, women in general weren't encouraged to practice, and were considered lower than and not smart, and certainly wouldn't be considered somebody that could grasp any sort of enlightenment or even practice. So the way that they were sitting, in the hierarchy, that was the shocking thing, was that the woman was allowed to sit so close in this sense. But the teacher here was saying, maybe see if somebody else can wake this woman out of her samadhi, someone who isn't so enlightened as you. And that is what happened. Basically, the bodhisattva that came out from the underneath the earth in the deep down dark areas was very, very early stage of practicing, and wasn't considered to be anywhere close to the level of Manjushri. And yet, that's what this woman was awakened by. And I picture her waking up and rolling up her sleeves and going back to her life, into her everyday life, into the differentiation of good and bad, sickness and health, life and death, pain and happiness. And that was a little bit of what I came face to face with at this camp this weekend. And I think I want to share these great Chan masters' commentaries on this koan as well. Chan Master Miaozang, a woman, says, "Gold is not bartered for gold, nor water washed with water. There is no two to be transformed into one. How can there be a not clear and a Manjushri? How can there be one who doesn't see clearly and isn't awakened, and a Manjushri who's so clearly awakened? How can one scratch through one's boot soles? How do you get to that itch if you're trying so hard to be enlightened?" And another verse from another Chan master says, "Once in samadhi, what need to talk about how spring follows autumn? Doubt rises, emotion stirs, distinctions are made between far and near. Before long, the sun god of the east will have exhausted all his powers in a vain attempt to get the precious peony flower to open up for him." And another comment says, "With a single verdict, all are declared guilty." I think when we come to practice, it's very common to have an idea about how it's supposed to go and why we want to do it and what we think we're going to get out of it. Because there seems to be a universal, I don't know, itch, desire, or feeling that this can't possibly be it. There must be something else. And if I can just practice hard enough, or sit in meditation long enough, or do it the right way, I won't have to feel this way. My life won't be so hard. Or maybe I can protect myself, or maybe I can avoid these really uncomfortable conversations. Or maybe somehow I'll get better at that. Because somehow I think there must be something wrong with me, and this must have an answer. This must be the answer. I can just become awakened, you know? And then we have to get off the cushion and walk out into our daily life. And then old age, sickness, and death still happens. So I think a lot of that uncomfortable, I don't want to talk about this, or I don't want to make you uncomfortable, comes from a desire to avoid that reality of old age, sickness, and death. But it doesn't discriminate. And I have to say, so breast cancer certainly doesn't discriminate, I can tell you that. And it's a hard thing to go through. There's no way around it. But I do think that when we add this uncomfortable avoidance or this fear of expressing or sharing or even asking about it, it's making it a lot harder to go through. My dear friend and our dear Sangha member, who's no longer with us, taught me this lesson, which I've mentioned before. You know, people don't know what to say sometimes when we're all having a really hard experience. And I just think it's cultural partly. We just don't know. We just don't know what to say or what to ask. And so when we say, how are you? Or when people say, how are you? Our knee-jerk response is fine. I'm fine. But what about, you know, it's been rough. It's been a rough day. I'm up and down. It's been hard. I don't know. Who's going to be uncomfortable? The person asking? Well, maybe. But isn't that why? Did they really want to know? I would say. Anyway, my dear friend Yuka, our Sangha member, she said that the great thing to ask is, if you do really want to know, is what's the worst of it, honey? And then you can sit down and have a conversation. And that can really help get rid of that awkward, uncomfortable moment or fear, I think. I don't want to make you uncomfortable. I don't want to be uncomfortable. So when we all got together and there were 600 women going through a different version, their own unique version of the same suffering, it suddenly was very comfortable to talk about it, about how we really were. And there was a lot of tears, but there was also a lot of sharing of information. There was a lot of hugging. At the end of it all, there was a big dance party. There were a lot of different ways of expressing what they had gone through. There were a lot of choices being made, a lot of decisions. And at the end of the day, I felt that if we could share that type of community in the bigger sense, so that people didn't feel so uncomfortable, it could be helpful. It could be a helpful thing for all of us. You know, there's all different versions of discomfort around talking about things that are hard. But if we're able to look straight at them, and that's one of the things that our practice helps us with when we're on the cushion meditating, then hopefully we're able to look straight at those things when we get off the cushion and somebody snaps us out of our samadhi and we have our daily life, our day-to-day life, which is no separation from that sitting on the cushion. There's nothing different. No separate reality, no separate person. Same person on the cushion, meditating, out in the earth, walking the earth. But somehow we try to kind of separate with our ideas, and I think that's just adding a little bit of suffering. So I'll report back after I make my comedy short film. But in the meantime, I just wanted to add a verse of my own to the end of the story about the woman who came out of samadhi. Breathing in, breathing out, this hole in my chest, once abreast, clear, not clear, still wholehearted. Gate, gate, I'm on the other side. Better go help tell the story.